the first day that we launched, I made $5.50 and had 2 subscribers. So it was slow. It was a slow burn, but it compounded. I remember someone once saying to me in early days, yeah, you know, Foundr could be as big as like any of the big entrepreneur magazines. And I felt sick. Like,
Oh, really?
thinking, wow, like no way, like so intimidated by that thought. I've interviewed well over 100 billionaires, and a lot of successful founders, they don't get to where they are just by themselves. They have a really strong level of self-awareness, and through that self-awareness, they're able to identify their strengths, and they're doubling down on those strengths, and they know what their weaknesses are, and they partner with other people to complement those weaknesses.
All right, Nathan Chan, if someone's just punched into this episode for the first time, why should they stick around and spend 30, 40, 50 minutes with us here today listening to you?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I've built an online education and media company from the ground up the past 12 years, knowing nothing about this space. This is my first business. And I've had to build everything from scratch. We have millions of people who consume our content every single week. We have millions of followers on Instagram, millions of students. I've broken every rule in the book when it comes to building a business, and I've got crazy stories to share.
Amazing. Let's start, Nath, with how the idea for Foundr came about. It was originally a magazine, right?
Yeah. So I was reading and hearing and just always hearing stories about people building online businesses, like friends of friends that had no skills or experience whatsoever. So this is 12, 13 years ago. So I started to hear how you could build this online, like you could build online businesses without, you know, having done it before. I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and he talked about this concept of the new rich. And so I was really curious around what that looked like. So I started just interviewing people for fun. Like, you know, I listened to a guy's podcast called Pat Flynn. Podcasting was, I thought, massive back then, 12 years ago. And yeah, I started to listen to his podcast, and I thought I would interview people just really wanting to understand and selfishly try and understand for myself, like how these people are doing it. And from there, I realized that these stories are so awesome. I want to share them with the world. So I started this magazine, and it really started as a way for me to just learn myself, right? I knew nothing about business. My mum was a nurse. My dad was a teacher. Never achieved much in school or academia. Just kind of scraped through university. And I was doing work that I didn't really enjoy in my day job. I was working in IT support. I used to have to crawl under people's desks to fix their computers. So I just started this magazine, not knowing where it would go. And in the first 4 months of starting it, I got an interview with Richard Branson.
Wow.
And
I really want to know about this story with Richard Branson. The way that you reached out to him, how you got in contact, because I think there's a great lesson for anybody listening to this right now, whether they're a school kid thinking, all right, well, I've watched what Nathan's done with the skills that he was raised with, and then he's achieved this business. But that skill set of reaching out to someone like Richard Branson, I think is rare. And I think for people to learn how you went about that, I think it's really cool.
Yeah, sure thing. So, here's the thing, right? I never forget somebody, once I got an interview with Richard Branson, they said to me, this is someone I met, and they said, like, look, Nathan, no offense, but Richard Branson's been on the front covers of every big, large, major business magazine. So what's the big deal that he was on Foundr? So if you take that feedback, this gift that someone gave me, then the question I asked myself was, well, why couldn't he be on mine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And so I started with, I met somebody in the early days. So to create the magazine, it was a digital magazine in the App Store and Google Play Store. And I met I was part of like a little community of other people that had magazines and were starting magazines because there was this software that allowed me to do it. And part of the software, I paid for the software, a lifetime license, and part of that, I was part of a community, and I met somebody that was really, really good at finding and connecting with hard to reach people, and she had like Bono on the front cover of her magazine.
Wow.
It was like a vegan magazine, and I was like, how the hell are you doing this? And then she kind of showed me that what you can do is you can reach out to the publishers, and you can start to, all of these publishers, they want to get more press for their books, and magazines, they're really authoritative, right? Still to this day, a magazine has a lot of authority or thought leadership more than a book. You can publish a book and there's thought leadership, but then if you actually publish a magazine, so it has a high perceived value. So I reached out as Nathan Chan, the CEO and publisher of Foundr Magazine, to these publishers, tracked down the publisher that represented some of Richard Branson's books, and then I ended up getting looped back into his head of PR, which was also the head of PR for Virgin. And the next thing I learnt from that lady was you need to make phone calls. The lazy thing to do is write an email. And then just naturally I just followed up and just kept following up. I followed up at least 3 or 4 times over 3 or 4 weeks. I sent text messages and emails and phone calls. And I never forget, I was on the phone to this lady. Her name was Daisy. I don't think she works there anymore. And I was in like a share house with my housemate, and he had his missus around, and I was like, can you guys be quiet? I'm trying to do this pitch, and they didn't know what the hell was going on, because it's still early days in the magazine. There's this kind of little pipe dream, something I'm working on. And I said, oh, look, hey, my name's Nathan Chan. The magazine wasn't even called Foundr at the time. It was called Key to Success. We ended up being sued a couple months later. And it changed the name to Foundr, but that's another story. And I remember saying to her, oh, look, I'd love to interview Sir Richard Branson. And she's like, yep, Nathan, thank you. I've got your emails. I've got 2 minutes. I'm just about to hop on the tube. She was in London. And she said, look, please understand, we get like 20, 30 of these requests every single day. I'll come back to you. I promise I'll get back to you. And she did. And then the rest was kind of history.
That's awesome. So obviously persistency pays off. Like it sounds like you were super persistent, didn't take no for an answer, which is something we hear a lot from entrepreneurs. Like you have to have that in you to, I guess, succeed. Is that what you found? Like you've interviewed, I think, over 100 billionaires now or something. Have they all got a similar trait?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for a long time now. Yeah. And yes, I've interviewed well over 100 billionaires. And I think, first of all, I'm in a pretty lucky position to get to spend time with these kinds of people and get them to give back to our community at Foundr. And look, there isn't just one trait, right? But there's many things. A lot of successful founders, they don't get to where they are just by themselves. They have a really strong level of self-awareness, and through that self-awareness, they're able to identify their strengths, and they're doubling down on those strengths, and they're identifying, they know what their weaknesses are, and they partner with other people to complement those weaknesses, whether it's through co-founders or other staff members, because that's how a business really grows, right? Yes, you can be the visionary. Yes, you can be the one or many people behind it, but it takes a team, and it takes a team of many. And so that's the other thing. All of these billionaires or super successful people I interview, they're very, very good at finding and identifying great people and rewarding and recognizing and getting those people to take them on the journey. So they're exceptional leaders as well. Then they have an obsession, right? Like you talk about persistency or never giving up. It's an obsession. That's what it is, right? It's not healthy, but it's what's required to build anything of true worth and significance. I was watching this interesting interview with Mr. Beast on Stephen Bartlett's show, and he was saying, like, if if people wouldn't want my life because then they would truly understand the sacrifice on my mental health to be able to get there. So what drives Mr. Beast at this point in time is still the obsession. And that was obsession when Jimmy was like 13, 14 when he started on YouTube. So every single person, it's not, I think it runs deeper than being persistent or never giving up. It's an obsession, and it's an unhealthy obsession, and it's you just can't be beaten.
So where are you at in your cycle now? When you watch that interview with Mr. Beast, do you think, okay, that's a level for me to get to, or are you comfortable now with where you're at? You're still, aspiring to be better, but you're, like not necessarily pushing yourself at that level. Like, where do you see yourself now that you've accomplished what you set out to achieve?
Yeah. So, first of all, when I watch an interview like that, I find it interesting. I find it inspiring. I find it motivating. My girlfriend, Miriam, she was saying, like, we were talking about Mr. Beast, and I was like, yeah, he would be the most famous person on the internet. And she's like, really? Wow. So I'm not that I don't want to be the most famous person on the internet, but I find it inspiring what he's been able to achieve and accomplish, and the level of influence and what he's been able to do, how he's been able to become an absolute master at his craft. So I would say that I'm definitely nowhere near that. So I find that inspiring. That's the cool thing. There's levels to every game, and it's never ending, right? And it is never enough. For me, the journey is the reward, and sometimes it's easy to say that, but when you're in it, it's you don't reflect as much as you should. But then you do podcasts like this and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, look, it's awesome how far I've come, but there's still a lot more to be done. Like I have nowhere near achieved my vision for Foundr. I want to be like the global leader that supports and creates entrepreneurs. I want to build the largest online education platform for founders, in particular e-commerce founders. We haven't done that yet. Like I want to build so much more underneath our platform around services, softwares, tooling, playing in other different verticals to educate and support founders. So yeah, there is so much more to be done, Simon. So I watch an interview like that, walking away inspired, interested, curious, understanding how someone like him learns, and his speed of growth is way faster than mine, right? Like, let's be honest. He started on YouTube 12 years ago. Look where he is now. Like I'm not at the level that Mr. Beast is, not even close. Right. So, that's how I view it.
Yeah. You mentioned, Nathan, your vision for Foundr is still what you are looking to achieve in the future. When you started it, did you think it would become this? Is this the vision you've always had, or did it evolve into this? No,
it evolved. It evolved, and it will continue to evolve, just like anybody that's been working on a company for over a decade, like it just evolves over time. I remember someone once saying to me in early days, Foundr could be as big as like any of the big entrepreneur magazines. And I felt sick. Like thinking, really? Wow, like no way, like so intimidated by that thought. And we're not, but we're on our way. And so, yeah, no, not in the slightest. And that's like part of the battle, right? Because like you come, like us Australians, tall poppy syndrome, like it's a different mindset.
That's a really interesting thing with the tall poppy syndrome. We spoke to Daniel Priestley recently on the podcast, and the signal that he gave us was that he almost had to leave Australia to go and be successful in the Northern Hemisphere. Do you think that being in Australia, we're for businesses that want to go global and want to digitize and want to dominate in spaces like yours, do you think that we're at a disadvantage here?
Look, you guys are based in Sydney. I interviewed the guys from High Smile, based in the Gold Coast, right? what they are building is exceptional from coming out of the Gold Coast. Like that is not a talent hub, and they are the leaders when it comes to paid advertising and creative. And I don't even want to know how much they spend right now, but I'm sure they would be some of the biggest spenders on Facebook ads in Australia. No doubt about it. And they can't do it alone. So they've built a team, they've built a culture of just absolute weapons across the board. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I'm disadvantaged or anyone's disadvantaged. I think don't get me wrong, if you start a company in the US, it's just a different mindset. And could have I grown Foundr faster if I moved to the US and surrounded myself with more of that kind of mindset? For sure. But at the end of the day, you still make your own luck. You still like it's not going to hold you back, right? I don't believe you're at a disadvantage. I believe you're at a more of an advantage in the States for sure, because entrepreneurship, big picture thinking, that is, it's just more common, right? It's just more common. People are more celebrated, their success, and they're more proud, and failure is actually celebrated and not looked down upon as much. So, I think it is a different environment, but it's not a disadvantage. And I would never think to myself, it's not possible, which, I've never met Daniel, but he's a super smart guy, and, he's based in the UK, and, he's a super smart guy, right? Like, I'm sure he could have done it in Australia, but I think the mindset, like, I never forget my first trip to the States. My first trip to the States was game changing because it opened up my mind to what was possible. And I started, catching up with people that I'd met online. And that's why it's really important for me to go to the States quite often and quite frequently to get that top up. So yes, you can do it. You're not at a disadvantage, but it is different. It's different. It's a different lifestyle, different talent, different expectations.
Yeah. Nathan, I want to circle back to something you said earlier. Your business, like when you started Foundr, within the 4-month period, were you already monetizing at that stage? Were you making an income by then? And then you got sued?
Yeah, so...
Can you talk to us about what happened there?
Yeah, so it took a while to get Foundr going, right? For it to be a real business that I could go full time on. It took about 14 months. And that was like no investors, bootstrapping, just like recycling, multiplying capital. And it was just from growing the subscription base from the magazine readership. Eventually I ended up making the magazine free, but yeah, that was from the subscription base from the magazine. And what I can tell you was the first day that we launched, I made $5.50 and had 2 subscribers. After the first month, we maybe had like 50. So it was slow. It was a slow burn, but it compounded. And so, yes, I was technically making money, but not much. Like people would be, it's so crazy. Like I see students in our community, if they made like, $80 in their first month, they would be absolutely devastated. I just had a different mindset. There was less of that Instagram comparison, get rich quick, seeing the Lambos and comparing yourself to, it was less of that back then. And for me, there was still people building online businesses, but it was nowhere near as popping as it is now, especially pre-COVID. And so for me, I was just like happy, and I thought it was so cool that I created something from scratch and people were paying me for it. And so, yes, I was kind of making money, but not really. And I was sued by Success Magazine. So they're one of the biggest business magazines in the States.
Why did they sue you?
So the magazine was called Key to Success, and I interviewed a fellow named Neil Patel for issue, I think it was number 2 or number 3. And yeah, it must have been number 3 or 4. And anyways, the logo and the branding for the magazine was Success and then the Key to in the middle. And they put Neil Patel, and his head was covering the Key to. So it looked like we were infringing on their brand, so rightfully so. But it was just crazy to think back, like we were just a small crappy magazine making a few $100 a month, and they were suing us, and we got a cease and desist, and I was needed to appear in Dallas, Texas in court. So I just changed the name, and I changed it to Foundr.
And aren't you glad you did? Because it's such a better name. It's a way better name.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something I find often in your journey, right? Like when you face these roadblocks, or you face these effectively speed humps, they're just a speed hump on the journey. But oftentimes they happen for a reason, and there's always lessons, there's always blessings off the back of them.
Nath, I'd love to know for other people that are wanting to jump into their own business or digital business, those first 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 months, what's it like for you when you were starting out, going through all of those issues, when you're lying in bed at night and you're thinking to yourself, like, are you doing the right thing? Are you doing the wrong thing? What did you do for yourself to keep yourself on track, I guess?
Yeah, so it's hard to remember because it's so long ago, and going back to those feelings, oh look, it's a lot of anxiety, it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of angst. What keeps you going is your customers, is the people that you support and the people you surround yourself with. It's your friends, it's your family, but then also it's your peers. You need, like, I think it's so important when you're building something, you need to surround yourself with like-minded people, and people that are a couple of steps ahead of you in your journey, and people that are a few steps before you, right? And then, you support each other. Like, I think that's really, really important. But what kept me going for the most part was serving our customers and our students and our community and our people. That's always been like the guiding light. Like, I don't want to let people down.
Foundr now, you've mentioned, is a real educational hub, and you guys have helped quite a few students with their startup businesses. Have you ever had a student who's had this insane idea that you've helped and can't believe the growth it's had?
Yeah, so many, right? Like, I'll give you a good one. So there's a girl, she was a news anchor, and she started a company called Naked Sundays.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of it?
Very familiar with Naked Sundays. It's one of the best sunscreen brands out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So she went through one of our programs. She had this idea. So with Foundr, how it works is we have a membership. It's an e-commerce membership, and we really get some of the most successful e-commerce founders to teach on our platform. And one of those founders is a girl called Greta Van Riel, and she taught a program on our platform, and it's called Start and Scale. And Samantha Brett, she went through that program, and she started Naked Sundays, which is an incredibly successful skincare sunscreen brand. They're stocked in Mecca, they're stocked all around the world. It's growing super fast. She's done super, super well, and that's just one of just like so many. Like, there's so many that I don't hear of. Like, I got a random email from someone a few months ago saying, it was a really good subject line too. They said, like, you said my idea sucked, and then I sold my company for $200 million.
Oh my God.
And then I started that was the subject line, and then I read it, and it was just like, hey Nathan, hope you're doing well. You probably don't remember this. We spoke about 6 years ago, and I was talking in like, you know, the community group, and I did one of the programs, and, you know, I was working on this e-commerce business at the time, and you said, like, you know, you really queried it, and you ended up being right. I scrapped that idea, then created another business, and we just sold it for $200 million.
Wow.
And I just wanted to say thank you. Isn't that a crazy story?
That's insane. Totally. Yeah. To think that you gave that advice so early on for this entrepreneur, and now he's gone on to succeed. So, like, that's an amazing story. Yeah. And I guess you guys are having those success stories come through. What's it like when they do reach back out and say thank you? that you were such a big part of the journey.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things, like how I said before, like I'm very lucky to be able to speak to the kind of founders that I get to through the media component of our business with the podcast. I'm very lucky to be able to help facilitate people's growth and like legitimately change the course of their career, good, bad, or otherwise, right? Like we're not like, there are people that they go through our programs and it unfortunately doesn't work too, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and say like like every single person is successful. That's building a business. Building a business is tough, but if we can play a part in people's journey, no matter wherever they end up, like good, bad, or otherwise, like you go to your next business, you know, like that's the gold, right? To be able to really positively help someone and change the course of their life through like an idea that I had in my mind. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Your idea has turned into a major brand, Foundr. But where do you see in 2025 and you know going forward, where do you see the value of personal brand for yourself and for others? If there's someone listening or watching this right now and they're thinking, I've got 500 followers on Instagram and everyone's talking about building personal brand, how do I start? Do you see value in personal brand?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been building my personal brand inadvertently since I started Foundr. I just didn't know it. However, there's a fundamental difference. I built, like Nathan is Foundr, Foundr is Nathan, but I never intentionally built Nathan's personal brand and building that relationship with people and really taking people on a journey through Nathan. I always did it through Foundr. So literally this year, like I've gone like, you know what, it's time, and it's something that I've wanted to do for many years, but it's honestly, it's got to the point where I just have to do it. Otherwise I feel like it's actually hurting the growth of Foundr. So, when you ask about now, I think, yeah, more than ever, people are seeing how powerful it is. Like, and yeah, it really hit home for me last year. And that's why I started this year. And I'm also in a position to do it. I think, not everyone is in the position to do that. Like when you're running a business, a lot of people go, oh, now I've got to create content. Like I've got a team behind me. I've got like all these other unfair advantages. So I think, yeah, people should be doing it. I think Foundr-led content is the way forward, and it's the way to get cut through. Like so many times now, like you see like a brand or a founder that's doing really, really, really well for their e-commerce brand, and they're just showing you on behind the scenes the journey. Like one popped up on my newsfeed, on my Instagram the other week, where this girl and her boyfriend, they're building paddle courts, and she's taking you on the journey of creating these paddle courts, right? And in somewhere in Australia, like some random place. Like it's really, really clever. So, it's just a form of marketing. It's just a new age form of marketing and trust building that has been popularized. Now it is popularized. Like it's not new in the sense that the Kardashians have been doing it for 20 plus years. And they've done it through media, through a TV show. Now you can do it with kind of more modern media like your social media platforms. But yeah, I think it is powerful, and I think it's an area that I'm going to continue to double down on.
Mm.
Let's talk about hiring. You touched on this just before, but hiring staff in a business, especially in that startup phase, it's a bit of a leap to take, right? You want to build revenue, and then you want to be able to invest that in staff. How did you go through those early stages of, you know, building that revenue and then deciding who to put as your next, you know, member in the team?
Yeah, so I've broken every rule in the book there, and I still keep breaking them. It's really tough. Like it's like finding good people. I know it's a cop-out and everyone says this stuff. It is tough, but it's definitely possible, right? So it's not easy, but it is tough. And I think it's almost a rite of passage. Like I think Every single founder that I've spoken to that has hired, their first couple of execs, they've got it wrong, right? Like you always are going to get hires wrong. And it's just something that not enough people talk about. And over time, you just kind of build your own internal playbook and hiring mechanism. And it depends on what game you're playing. Like if you're playing the VC game, like then if you can, like depending on how much you've raised, you would get like a really, really good people and culture person and that, or someone that just focuses on talent acquisition and that's all they do all day, every day. And you can find some great people. But if it's just you as the founder or it's just you and a co-founder or co-founders, it's tough. And I think first and foremost, when you go to build your first round of hires, let's just say you're post-revenue and you're driving revenue and you're growing the business, you want to hire people that are going to amplify your revenue. Like that like you just need to just focus on doubling down on, is this person going to help drive revenue growth, drive growth. And for me, my first hire was JC. He was a content creator, and he was someone that I met at an event, and no formal interview process, had no idea what it was doing. And like, he was with me for a couple of years and he did some great work. But I think what you'll find is as you start to grow, you get better at it and you find other people. But I think in the early stages, you want people that can be scrappy, that are used to wearing many different hats, and perhaps you are not specialists. You want generalists because there's many different hats to wear, and you want someone that can wear many hats. So ideally you work with people that have worked at startups or startup type environments previously, and you want to hire more generalists instead of specialists. That's the rule of thumb from my experience.
When you mentioned, is it Justin that you... JC, sorry. What was it in that conversation? What was the key that you saw that you thought, oh, I need to get that guy in?
Man, like honestly, I didn't know what I was doing, and I thought he had good hustle and he was hungry. That was the guiding light for me, and he seemed like a good kid. Like that was literally it. Like, and the only reason I tell that story, Simon, is not to give an example that's what you do, because it's definitely not what you should do. It's more that I had no idea whatsoever. And as time has gone on, I think first and foremost, you should try and work out really, really quickly what you're good at and double down on what you're good at and what you enjoy doing. Then secondly, anything that you're bad at, you want to have someone that can complement you. Now, you do have to wear many hats. So like for me, I'm not naturally a finance or an operations person, and I struggled through that for many years, but I was able to get the job done until I could start to hire people around me to support me on those weaknesses. So yeah, that is kind of the main ethos, I think, when it comes to startup, early stages, hiring good people. Hire against your weaknesses, and hire around roles that will amplify revenue, that will drive revenue as much as possible. And yeah, I can go through more details if you like around kind of like what I look for in people to hire and what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, why not? We'd love to know, because I think that's something that we're seeing a lot more businesses and entrepreneurs or founders talk about, and it's something that we've both found super interesting. Is something I never thought about when we've just started our business at Boom Studio, and obviously looking to hire, and I always looked at it as, oh, it'll be easy. You put a job ad out and someone will apply, and then if you like him, you hire him, right? But it's never that simple from what everybody has said and what we've like learned along the way. It's really important the people that you place within your business, because they can affect the growth so quickly. Like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So look, when I'm hiring people now, I'm looking I'm looking for someone with his career history of stability. I think that's really, really, really important. I'm looking for someone that has been promoted, ideally multiple times in multiple roles. I'm looking for somebody that is genuinely curious and passionate about what it is that they're being hired for. So if it's a videographer, for example, what are they doing in their spare time to learn, grow, and constantly level up? Because the best people, from my experience, are just super hungry. They love to learn and they're constantly getting better.
Yeah.
And then obviously it comes down to your values around, what's important to you, around your culture. We have a really big learning culture at Foundr. So I talked to you about the curiosity piece. You're looking for people ideally that have exceeded or done something exceptional in other areas of life. I always find that to be a unique trait. As an example, someone that used to work at Foundr, not here anymore, was like an ex-soccer player or semi-pro soccer player. Like somebody that has achieved exceptional, accomplishments. And it doesn't have to be within in their career per se, in a professional sense. So those are some of the things that I'm looking for. And then also, I get really, really clear on the role. I think that's part of the problem as well. I think so often, sometimes it can be exciting to hire new people because it signifies growth, and growth is fun and it's exciting. But then you're not really clear on the role or what success looks like. And then you hire somebody, but then you're not happy with the outcome, but you never really articulated what the role was and what success looked like to begin with. So that's something that I've learned that I'm really, really passionate about now. Like even when I'm doing any job interview, I'm looking at what are the attributes and traits and key things that I believe we need from that person and what would make them successful in the role. And then after the interview, obviously as they get to the final stages or whatnot, but I'm scoring against those key attributes that I'm looking for. And then if they are successful, I'm literally sharing like this is what success looks like. So it's just as much from my experience, you finding the right person, but then also like you guiding that person and showing them what success looks like. Because I think that's a lot of the problem as well. Like you could get the biggest superstar ever, but if founders and leaders, they tend to not really, like early stage, developing leaders, they tend to not let that person know what success looks like and clearly outline what success looks like. And I think that's a problem in of itself. And then it's easy to go, okay, well, I've hired the wrong person, but perhaps that person doesn't even know what success looks like. And that's what I often find early days. And then how no one's going to succeed. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, for sure. Nathan, you have interviewed some of the biggest names. There's one particular guest you've had on who Simon and I love, Cody Sanchez.
Oh, yes.
We love her.
Yes.
What's something from your chat, or maybe it happened off the air when you guys were having just a normal conversation, that she taught you? Did you take something away from that conversation?
Yeah, so what I can tell you, this is actually a really interesting story. So what I can tell you about Cody is I actually met her like 6-7 years ago, and she interviewed me for her podcast. And she wasn't big at all, like not at all. Like she had no following, brand whatsoever. And she has absolutely blown up in the past 2-3 years, like massive. And what I took from her was the power of personal brand, right? And how she's been able to build a massive following, influence, and then spin up all these different businesses around her. It is so impressive how she's been able to use media to build influence and then community, and then, effectively commercialize that in so many different ways. Like she would be one of the now one of the leading kind of thought leaders in this online business space. And she's come up out of nowhere. And I saw that because she interviewed me for a podcast like 6-7 years ago, and she wasn't even doing what she was doing. Like, she just had a random podcast. And then I think just during COVID, she started this thing called Contrarian Thinking. She started a newsletter, and then she started putting out content. And yeah, she's very, very clever. So that's the story around Cody, and that's what I learned from her. It's
what
just
a
like
full
really
circle moment for you. You were a guest on her podcast, and then now she's on yours. Like at the peak of her, I guess, popularity. Really, like she's just killing it.
Yeah. So that's what I learned about her. Like, you know, you can build a massive following very quickly if you do things right. And she is the blueprint of doing it right. And she's done a really good job of calling out and really being really clear around who she serves and what she's about. Like, it's buying boring businesses. That's her thing, right? That's her thing, right? And then everything around her like picks up around that. Like, she's got all these different boring businesses that her holding company invests in, and then that attracts people to her portfolio of companies that she invests in or buys, you know, significant portions in. And then she's got a business buying and selling marketplace, and then she's got education. Like, she's got so much going on. It's really impressive.
Yeah, her honesty really cuts through, and I think she's really helping to wake people up to get them to take that leap or take that jump and give it a go themselves. When we talk, Cody being an American, that idea of failure in America is almost celebrated, but here in Australia, maybe not so much. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but is there a big failure in your career or your building the business that you've used to learn from, and do you want to share that? Or
yeah, sure thing. Look, there's been many big failures. I would say probably one of the biggest though was when we lost $500,000 in 1 month on our advertising. Just like we were, spent a lot of money, and it just broke out of nowhere. And that almost broke me because I was just like, what the hell do I do now? And I was able to pick myself up and work through it and work it all out. But I don't know, would you call that a failure? I don't know. It's losing a lot of money very quickly.
Well, especially if it put you in a bad mindset, I guess, because that can be a really difficult thing for some business owners. Like, money comes and goes, right? Like, you've been doing this a long time, and I think when you start a business, you have to think about the money as if you are willing to lose it, because every day is a risk, right? But how the loss affects you mentally is, I think, sometimes more painful. And you spoke about hitting a rock bottom. How did you get yourself out of that slump?
I think just like everyone does, when you hit rock bottom, you just kind of just focus on each day, one day at a time, and just trying to get a win and just keep stacking the wins to build momentum. So fortunately, the company had like a pretty healthy balance sheet that we could survive, and we were able to continue growing. But, that was a really troubling time for me, because, we were very, very, as a business, reliant on Facebook ads, and this is why we shifted, like, over time, our whole model. So it was, in the end, it was a great thing and taught some incredible lessons. But at the time, like, it was really scary, and these kinds of failures, quote unquote, are like money in the bank in lessons. I think as I shared, like, always the things that like are the toughest, your greatest challenges or struggles. Ray Dalio talks about this pain plus reflection equals progress. So when you go through these really painful things, but then you reflect on them, there's always lessons, there's always gold, there's always blessings that come off the back of it. And that's what happened with me, right? Like we reworked our whole model, and it was better for the customer, right? In the end for us, like, we moved to a membership model, and it was better for the customer. Like instead of charging $500 or $1,000 for every single course, we now sell it in a subscription and you get access, and we've moved from an ownership model to a rental model. And that obviously from a commercial perspective builds predictability in our so there's all these great things that come off the back of all this stuff.
You sound very customer centric and product centric. So is that how you see yourself as a CEO and founder, as a product officer? Is that where you focus most of your energy? Yeah,
look, we are more, yes, we more than ever, we are very customer centric, more than ever. For a long time as a business, we were very marketing heavy, and I think that can only get you so far. Don't get me wrong, we were passionate about product, but now like more passionate than ever, and really more focused than ever around product. And I think that's what happens naturally as a company when you move to a subscription model, because it's not about just that one sale. It's about continually serving the customer, and that's how you get longevity. Like I love that Alex Hormozi talks about, like, imagine you had a business where all the customers that you have generated just kept paying you, right? Like imagine that. And so if that's the case, what would you have to do to get them to keep paying you? And those are the best businesses, right? Like I was talking to a trainer, like I had a trainer that subbed in because my other trainer couldn't train me yesterday, and he pulled out his phone and he had this Samsung. And I'm like, oh, well, what's that? And he's like, Samsung. And I'm like, ooh, like, ugh. And I'm like, how come you're not an Apple? And he said, oh man, like, I've been up and down throughout it. And I said, and it made me reflect. And I said, you know what? Like, if I would never move to Samsung because Apple got me for life, like it'd be too difficult. And then I started to do a little bit of mental math in like probably how much I've paid Apple. Like literally how much have I paid Apple across all the iPhones, all the laptops for like staff all around the world, like all the iMacs, everything, all the subscriptions, all the apps, like guys, we're talking a very substantial amount of money there, right? And those are the best businesses. The businesses that...
I've got a question on that. What's your why? Why was Apple, like, why, when you think about that, what's the why?
I like their products.
Yeah.
Right? I like their products. They're cool and they make my life easier, right? So like, and so if you come back to it, right, like when you're building a business, how can you build a business where like your customer just keeps paying you, right? Like you're like and imagine building a business where you don't have to get one new customer for the month and you'll still make a profit. Imagine that, right? Wouldn't that be a great business? You don't need to acquire one new customer, and you'll still make a profit. And so that's kind of why we are more than ever very product centric, because if you build great product and you continually to serve and delight customers and provide value, they will keep coming back. And then the acquisition, it becomes less of a game. And the best businesses, like that Apple example, they ain't getting me from an ad. They already got me for life.
Yeah. We're in such an interesting time for everyone in our kind of age group. We're going to be, I guess, living through the next 20, 30, 40 years and watching, or hopefully a hell of a lot longer than that, watching where we go with AI. I think it's really interesting as well, because I think kids that are, 5 and 6, when they grow up with AI as part of their life, they're going to be looking back at us the way that we grew up and feel really sorry for how basic our lives were. It's going to be like us looking back at the horse and cart days. What do you think about AI, where it's going, and how you're implementing it into Foundr?
Oh, look, I think it's awesome. I think more than ever now, it's going to really challenge founders to be more efficient on capital allocation, efficient on hiring staff, efficient on, training staff and helping your staff get more leverage and helping them succeed. And yeah, through AI and everything that's going on, there will be businesses that are built like there'll be a one person unicorn. Like a unicorn is a $1 billion valuation business. Through AI, there will be a one person unicorn. I'm sure of it because I'm playing around with it all the time. We're getting into the agent stuff quite heavily. Like, it's crazy what you can do. So yeah, the companies that will win are the ones that are AI forward and AI thinking and just constantly leveraging AI with everything that they're doing.
And what
really
advice
powerful.
would you give, Nathan, to say, I guess a lot of businesses or a lot of people leave school, right, and we're told, go to uni, get a job, like that's the traditional path. That's just not the case anymore. So if you grew up in that era, I guess, and you've been in the job for a very long time and you haven't upskilled, and AI comes in and it's like, well, we can do your job. What advice would you give someone to, I guess, figure out their next move? Because in this ever-changing world, it can be quite scary for people who've been really regimented.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. When it comes to traditional education failed me, right? It failed me. And any day of the week, and I'd love to do this experiment, take someone that spent $30,000 or $50,000 on an MBA and then spent $500, and then take a different person that spent $500 on going through a Foundr Plus annual membership, and see what they're able to accomplish around building or growing a business, right? Like, and how much value you could actually get between the two. So I'm always going to say that modern day, like Foundr is a modern day online education. It's a modern day learning platform. And if you want to understand business, you don't need to do an MBA or you don't need to do a master's of business. It's rubbish. Like, I'll be the first to say that. However, it depends on the occupation, right? Like, do I believe that certain jobs will, unfortunately, over time with the development of AI, become less in demand? Yeah, for sure, right? Like, you look at development, if you're a junior software developer, right? Like, unfortunately, like your job, like, AI can do that, right? So I think in many ways, if you are in this position, the best thing you can do is just constantly skill up, right? And I think what is cool about today's age is there's more than ever optionality and opportunity for non-traditional career pathways, right? And that's where Foundr, I really want us to be able to support people. But at the same time, not everyone is going to be a founder. Not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur. But however, you can start side hustles, you can create content, you can do all sorts of different things to build your career. And I think what we will start to see more than ever is people having multi-hyphenated careers. You might be doing some consulting and some freelance work, but then at the same time, you might be working somewhere full time, or you might be doing multiple things. You might be a content creator, but you don't earn a full-time living from that. But then you might do consulting and freelancing. But look, AI is one of these things. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something you need to lean into, because really, like, that knowledge is so much power. And so many people are afraid of it. So many people aren't leaning into it, and there's just this. I personally think there's only things to be gained understanding how you can use it for leverage, whether it's in your day job, or as a content creator or as a founder in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you make really great points. Nathan, something we do with every guest before we let them go is we ask them to bring or pick a piece of something that's in the space that they're in maybe, or have a significant item around them. Have you got anything that you can share with us before we let you go?
Yeah, so unfortunately I forgot to bring my journal into the studio. I'm sorry about that, but we will continue. So like I've got so many different journals. I've been journaling for, I say, the past 14 years, a couple of years before I started Foundr, and I find those journals to be super therapeutic to be able to write and unpack and share my journey and talk about where I'm at. But where the real gold is being able to look back on them. So when I write, I look back and they're like, oh, remember how like 2-3 years, like you're doing it, you think you're doing it tough now or whatever, and then you go back to 2-3 years and like, oh my God, like look how far I've come. This is crazy. So yeah, my journals, I've got like 4 or 5 journals that I've been journaling in sporadically over the past 14 years. So it's not one item, it's a bunch of items, and it's my journals because, honestly, if there was a fire at my place, that's the first thing I'd grab. My journals.
Interesting. It's actually something that we notice a lot of high performers do, which is journaling. So you started this 14 years ago. What got you into that?
Well, I don't know what got me into it.
And is it still now pen to paper, or is it
always pen to paper?
Always pen to paper.
Wow.
Yeah, always pen to paper. I don't know what got me into it. It's just something I like to do. And I find it therapeutic, and I find it awesome to be able to capture and document.
Have you started writing a book at all? Would you ever consider writing a book?
Yeah. Look, maybe one day. Look, it's a little bit of the pathway, right? When you want to build your personal brand, become a thought leader, build that authority, you build a community, you build an audience, then, you put together your best, most popular works, you put it into a book, you go for the New York Times bestseller, then you elevate your authority even more. It's a bit of a playbook. So maybe we'll see. Right now, my biggest focus is building Foundr, building out a community around myself, and my thoughts and what's interesting to me. And, let's see where we land.
Awesome.
Well, Nath, you're absolutely smashing it, mate. Thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. And thanks for saying yes, Richard Branson style. You're passing it on.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it.